James had once been a very prosperous farmer, but he had not managed his estate with wisdom and had been reckless with his fortune. He understood his foolishness far too late, only after he had lost everything. Now he and his wife resided in poverty, in a minuscule cottage that could barely be called a home. The cracks in the walls made it impossible to stay warm, and rain dripped through the holes in the roof. Their existence was a perpetual struggle. They had always wished for a child, but during their years of abundance, their prayers went unanswered. Now, in their poverty, when they had nothing, his wife gave birth to a baby girl. "Oh, what are we to do?" his wife lamented. "We don't have enough food for ourselves. How can we possibly care for this poor little one?" "We will find a way," James assured her. "She is a gift from God, and He will help us. But first, she must be christened. We need to find someone to be our daughter's godmother." Having no relatives nearby, James went to ask his neighbor's wife. "My husband and I are just poor peasants like you. Why should we add your child to our list of financial burdens?" was her curt response. James returned home with the disheartening news. "What else can you expect?" his wife asked sadly. "When we were rich, everyone wanted to be our friend. Even the mayor invited us to his home. But now that we have nothing, not even a poor peasant woman will help us." She was deeply worried about their newborn. Winter was nearing its end, but the nights were still bitterly cold. The ground was frozen, and in the mornings a blanket of snow covered the houses and trees. They had no proper clothes for their child, only old scraps of cloth, and her cradle was the cold, hard floor. James's wife kissed their baby and wept. "My poor darling, my poor little darling." Then a hopeful thought struck her. She urged James to go and ask the mayor's wife to be their child's godmother. She had been the godmother to the mayor's child and felt certain the mayor's wife would return the favor. James was less optimistic, but he went to ask, his heart heavy. He walked past the fields and farm buildings that had once been his. Arriving at the mayor's grand house, he offered his good wishes to the mayor's wife and then made his request. "You know how difficult things are at the moment," she replied coolly. "Everyone is struggling. I cannot afford to help someone as destitute as you. Why are you asking me, anyway? Is there no one else?" "Well, my wife is godmother to your child," James answered plainly. "Oh, I see. So this is a debt you've come to collect?" was her furious retort. "Is that the only reason your wife agreed to be our child's godmother? And tell me, what help can your wife be to our child now that you have nothing? How dare you come to my home and insult me like this? I wouldn't be your child's godmother if you offered me a mountain of gold." James left in tears. When he returned home and recounted the painful encounter, his wife was overcome with despair, but he told her not to lose hope. He would take their child to the christening himself and ask the very first person he met on the road to be her godmother. His crying wife wrapped their child in an old blanket to shield her from the harsh winter winds and placed her in her father's arms. James dressed as warmly as he could and began his journey, carrying his baby with a mixture of sadness and pride. After several hours, he saw an old woman dressed in tattered, dirty clothes, walking very slowly on her frail, bent legs. He hesitated for a moment, then approached her, explained their plight, and asked if she would be the godmother to his baby. The old woman smiled warmly, took the tiny baby into her arms, and said, "Yes, of course, I will. It will be an honor to be godmother to such a sweet little baby whose father loves her so dearly." They continued to the church together. The priest was preparing to leave when his assistant rushed to him, whispering that some people were arriving. "Oh no," sighed the priest, eager for his supper. "Who is it, and what could they possibly want at this late hour?" "It's only James," the assistant answered. "You know, the one who lost everything. He's as poor as a church mouse now." As they neared the church, the godmother noticed the assistant whispering something unkind to the priest. So, as they entered, she pulled a golden ducat from her old dress and pressed it into the priest's hand. The priest was astonished. He glanced at the coin, then at the old woman in her ragged clothes. He quickly whispered to his assistant to prepare for the baby's christening. The ceremony that followed was fit for the wealthiest of merchants. The little girl was named Lily. After the christening, the priest escorted them to the church door. His assistant walked with them all the way to the gate, hoping for a generous tip. The old woman gave him a golden ducat, which he received with gratitude. When James and the old woman reached the spot where they had first met, she handed the baby back to him. She then reached into her pocket, pulled out another golden ducat, and tucked it inside the baby's blanket. She smiled at James and said, "This is my gift to your child. This will provide enough money to raise her well and give her everything she needs. This child will bring you and your wife great joy and comfort, and when she grows into a woman, she will have a long and happy marriage." The kind godmother then touched the ground, and instantly a beautiful rose bush appeared, blooming with sweet-smelling flowers. James bent down to admire the lovely blossoms, and when he turned to thank the old woman, she had vanished. He was amazed and bewildered. "Goodbye," he called out. "Thank you, kind godmother." He stood there, holding little Lily, looking all around. He might have stayed there for hours if Lily hadn't started crying for her dinner. So he started for home, his mind racing with all the wonderful things that had happened. At one point, he stopped and felt inside Lily's blanket to make sure the ducat was still there, that he hadn't imagined it. He took it out, and it suddenly multiplied into 10 ducats, falling from his hand and scattering on the ground. Again, he stood there speechless, filled with amazement. Laughing, he gathered the coins, put them in his pockets, and practically ran home with Lily. James's wife had been waiting anxiously, hungry, thirsty, and cold. There was no food in the house and no money. She was shocked when James burst in with a joyful smile and told her all about the kind godmother. When he finished his story, he told his wife to take the godmother's christening gift from Lily's blanket. His wife reached in and pulled out the ducat. Suddenly, there were 10, 20, 30 ducats. She cried out in happiness and surprise as the coins flew from her hands and rolled across the floor. They both began to pick them up, but wherever there was one, 10 more appeared. In the end, a beautiful, shining pile of gold lay before them. They fell to the floor, laughing and crying simultaneously. Then, a sudden fear gripped James's wife. Could this money be an evil curse? Maybe the woman was an evil spirit who wants to buy our souls. James laughed. "Don't be silly," he told her. What evil spirit would enter a church? But James knew this godmother was no ordinary woman. Perhaps she was a good spirit sent by God to help them. He warned his wife, however, that they must protect their secret. He told her to hide the money and tell no one the true story. He then took 1 ducat to exchange with the mayor so he could buy eggs, flour, bread, and milk. When he asked his wife what else he should buy, she immediately replied, "Our land, our house, our animals, our fields." "Tomorrow morning," James replied happily. Then his wife became very serious. "But James, please manage them more carefully this time." James took her in his arms and told her quietly, "I promise to do this for you and our child. I have been very foolish and caused us so much unhappiness. But I have learned my lesson. Please believe me." He then left to get their supplies. While he was gone, his wife sat holding her baby, dreaming happily of their future. After some time, James returned with the mayor's servant, who carried buckets of fresh milk, a basket of eggs, and some wonderful cakes. "The mayor's wife sends her good wishes and has sent me to help you in any way I can," the servant told her. James's wife thanked her and watched as the servant began preparing a fine soup on the fire. James had also bought 3 soft feather beds, which he placed by the fire. The next day, James went to buy back their farm. The mayor's wife was intensely curious about how James and his wife had become wealthy again overnight. While James was out, she visited his wife and asked many questions, but James's wife did not reveal their secret. She simply told her that Lily's godmother had very kindly given them enough money to start over. After the mayor's wife left, James's wife sat by the fire, thinking about their kind godmother, and thanked her for giving them a second chance at life. James did buy back all their property, and this time he managed it wisely. He built sturdy, handsome farm buildings and a beautiful house for his family. He bought the finest animals, and in the autumn his fields were filled with healthy, golden wheat and corn. His farm became the best in the region. James and his wife were loved and admired, as they were good neighbors, always generous and helpful to any poor farmer experiencing bad luck. Lily was a wonderful child. She brought James and his wife great joy and comfort, just as her godmother had predicted. When she became a woman, her beauty attracted a wealthy prince who asked her to be his wife. She married him and lived a long and happy life. James and his wife grew old in good health. In the evenings, they often sat by the fire and talked about the time when the kind godmother appeared and changed their luck forever.